$2.4 million won. Officer retired. City admitted fault. Justice served. Except David Mitchell. He died 12 days before the verdict. Fought 19 months for justice he'd never see. His family got the settlement. The officer got his pension. David got a grave. 4 months too late. This is what happens when you win, but you're not there to collect. This is the settlement that came too late. What I'm about to show you isn't just David's story. It's what happens when justice moves slower than death. When doing everything right still costs you everything. When a settlement check arrives at a grave instead of a courtroom. Watch this entire story and subscribe for more.
My name is Rachel Mitchell. This is where it all started. Not the tragedy, but the life. 23 years, David ran this store, opened at 7 every morning, knew every customer by name. Knew which bolt fit which job, which paint matched which trim, which tool solved which problem.
He was 42 years old. Married 18 years. Father to Caleb, 16, and Emma, 13. Deacon at Community Baptist Church. Youth basketball coach. The kind of man who stayed late to help someone find the right part for a home repair. Who coached kids who couldn't afford private leagues. Everyone knew David Mitchell. Everyone trusted him. I remember one Saturday, a customer came back. Said our register had overcharged him $20 the week before. David checked the receipt, found the glitch, gave him his $20 back, plus 10 more for his honesty and the inconvenience. The customer said, "You didn't have to do that." David said, "My father taught me, your reputation is worth more than any sale. You came back to tell me the truth. That's the kind of customer I want." That was David. Honest. Hardworking. Building something that mattered. We had everything. Store revenue, $450,000 a year. Building paid off. College funds for both kids. Caleb was looking at Stanford, and David was already planning the campus tour for October. Emma was in the gifted program. David had built her a custom bookshelf for her 13th birthday at the store, surrounded by customers who'd watched her grow up. We were living the dream we'd worked for. Middle class and proud of it. Earned through sweat and integrity. David was perfectly healthy. Annual physical 2 months before. Doctor said he had the health of a 30-year-old. No medications. No conditions. Played pickup basketball twice a week. Life insurance policy for $500,000 that we joked he'd never need. 42 years old with a future as solid as the hardware he sold. I remember the last normal conversation we had. Friday night, August 13, 2021. Family dinner. Caleb excited about Stanford. Emma asking when she could tour colleges. David smiling, saying, "I work hard so you can dream big." That's not spoiling. That's parenting. Next morning, he kissed me goodbye.
I love you.
I love you too.
Headed to the store. I said, "Be safe." He said, "Always am. Love you." Those were the last normal words we'd exchange. August 14, 2021. Saturday. David opened the store at 7 like always.
Here's your receipt, Mrs. Johnson.
Thank you, dear. See you next week.
Helped customers until 6 like always. Locked up at 6:30 like always. Started driving home like always. Then at 6:47 p.m. everything changed. And the man who'd been perfectly healthy that morning would be dead 19 months later. Not from illness. Not from an accident. From fighting for justice against injuries that never should have happened.
August 14, 2021. 6:47 p.m. 8 blocks from home. David was driving his work truck, Mitchell's hardware logo on the side. Anyone could see he was a local business owner. Tail lights working perfectly. Dashcam footage later proved that. Officer Bradley Carson pulled him over anyway.
David did everything right. Hands visible. No sudden movements. Calm. Respectful. License and registration. Of course, officer. May I ask what I did wrong? Broken tail light. David didn't argue. Said he'd fix it Monday. Started reaching for his documents. Then Carson said 4 words that changed everything. Out of the vehicle. David was confused. You don't exit a car for a tail light, but he complied. Asked one question. Do you have probable cause to search, officer? That question saved his life in court. And it cost him everything else. Carson heard a black man cite the law and decided David was a threat. Told him to turn around. Hands on the truck. David obeyed. Carson's partner arrived. Detective Kowalski. 2 officers. 1 unarmed hardware store owner. The pat-down was rough. David stood completely still. When Carson jerked his arm back, David said, calmly, respectfully, "Sir, that hurts." "I'm not resisting." Carson heard resistance anyway. Then it happened. Carson slammed my husband's face into the truck bed. David's head hit the metal edge. Blood immediately. Carson forced him to the ground. Put his knee on David's back. 4 minutes. 37 seconds. That's how long Carson kept his weight on my husband while David bled into the pavement. 3 neighbors recorded it. Mrs. Rodriguez screaming from her porch, "He's not resisting." Stop. David wasn't resisting. He was saying, "I can't breathe. Please. My family." No one called an ambulance. Carson said David was being dramatic. Said he bumped his head. A neighbor finally called 911. 12 minutes after the injury. When paramedics arrived, they were shocked. Asked why it wasn't called in immediately. No answer. David was handcuffed, loaded into an ambulance, and charged with assault on an officer. The man bleeding from a skull fracture was charged with assault. I got the call at 7:15. "Mrs. Mitchell, your husband's in police custody." I drove to the hospital with Caleb and Emma. Found David handcuffed to a gurney. Head bandaged. Shirt soaked with blood. Officer Carson standing guard like David was dangerous. My children watched their father, honor student father, small business owner father, deacon father, handcuffed to a hospital bed. Emma was 13. She was crying. Caleb was 16. He couldn't speak. David was confused. Groggy. Kept asking what happened. I told him the officer hurt him. He said, "Did I do something wrong?" I said, "No, baby. You didn't do anything wrong." He said, "Then why do I feel like I got hit by a truck?" Because that's what happened. Dr. Bennett gave me the list. Skull fracture. Severe concussion. Facial lacerations, 23 stitches. Broken nose. Bruised ribs. Traumatic brain injury. David went to work healthy that morning. 42 years old. Perfect health. By nightfall, brain damaged and facing felony charges. He remembered asking about probable cause. He didn't remember the beating. His brain protected him from that memory. His body never would.
Sunday morning, David came home. Skull fracture. 23 stitches. Traumatic brain injury. Prescription painkillers. Instructions to watch for brain swelling. And a court date for assault on an officer. The man with the head injury was being persecuted for assault.
By Monday, the videos were everywhere. 2 million views. Comments flooding in, "This is attempted murder. That officer needs prison." Local news picked it up. But the police union had their own statement. Officer Carson followed protocol with a non-compliant suspect who became violent. David watched that from our couch, confused. Non-compliant? Violent? I asked about probable cause. He couldn't work. Doctor's orders, complete rest. Caleb tried running the store with employees, but customers needed David's expertise. Revenue dropped 70% overnight. Bills kept coming. Medical costs, $47,000. College fund disappearing. Church took up a collection. $8,000. It helped. It wasn't enough. A week later, Dr. Bennett said the words that changed everything. The brain swelling hasn't reduced. We need more tests. The MRI showed diffuse axonal injury. Brain tissue damage during impact. Prognosis, uncertain. Could improve. Could be permanent. Could worsen. David was forgetting words mid-sentence. Couldn't manage the store books he used to do in his sleep. Chronic headaches. Memory gaps. And something else, personality changes. The patient, gentle man I married, was becoming irritable. Angry. He knew it. Couldn't stop it. September 3rd. Criminal court. David still wearing bandages. How do you plead? Not guilty, Your Honor. Officer Carson sat across the courtroom. No remorse. No recognition. Just watching. David seeing him for the first time since the beating. Trial set for January. 4 more months of this limbo. October, David tried working at the store. Lasted 2 hours. A customer asked about drill bits, specifications David used to know instantly. He couldn't remember. Broke down crying in the storage room. Halloween. David always loved Halloween. Decorated the store, gave out candy, dressed up with the kids. That year, he sat in the dark living room while Caleb and Emma went without him. I found him crying. What's wrong, baby? I can't remember what candy we gave out last year. It's gone. And I don't know what else is going to disappear. November, Pastor Williams visited. Tried to comfort David. David snapped.
Don't tell me God has a plan for me to have brain damage, for my kids to watch their father fall apart, for my wife to work herself to death keeping us afloat.
Then he broke down sobbing. I'm sorry. I can't control it. The brain injury was taking my husband piece by piece. December, a documentary filmmaker interviewed David. Police Accountability Project. The interview went viral, 5 million views. That's how Vivian Price found us. Civil rights attorney. Pro bono. Reviewed the videos and called me. Mrs. Mitchell, what happened to David was a constitutional violation. Officer Carson had no probable cause. The videos prove it. We can file a federal lawsuit. How long? 12 to 24 months. But David, I need you to understand, this will be hard. And there's no guarantee of timeline. She didn't finish that sentence. But I knew what she meant. No guarantee David would live to see it end. December 15th, family meeting. David decided. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing it so this doesn't happen to someone else's father. December 20th, lawsuit filed. $5 million. Excessive force. Constitutional violations. Christmas Day, David gave Caleb a gift early. Keys to the hardware store. If something happens to me, it's yours. Keep it or sell it. Your choice. Dad, nothing's going to happen. Just take the keys, son. David Mitchell was fighting 2 battles now. Criminal charges saying he assaulted an officer. Civil lawsuit proving that officer assaulted him. Traumatic brain injury that wouldn't heal. Medical bills over $100,000. Business collapsing. Family watching him disappear. But he had video evidence. Witness testimony. The truth. He thought that would be enough. He thought justice would come in time. He was wrong about the timing.
January 28, 2022, 5 months after the beating. Officer Carson testified David was non-compliant and tensed up during the pat-down.
David's attorney asked,
And tensing up justified a skull fracture, traumatic brain injury, broken nose, and 23 stitches? Officer, was that level of force truly necessary?
I used the force necessary to control the situation.
You call that control?
The jury saw the videos. Saw David compliant. Saw Carson's violence. Verdict, not guilty. All charges dropped. Outside the courthouse, David leaning on me, speech slurred, I told the cameras, my husband was proven innocent. But that doesn't give him back his health. We won today, but we haven't won justice. Not yet. Criminal case closed. Civil case just beginning. Vivian subpoenaed Carson's personnel file. What we found destroyed me. 11 excessive force complaints in 22 years. 9 involving minorities. All dismissed as within protocol. David wasn't Carson's first victim. He was the 11th. But David had what the others didn't, video evidence. 3 witnesses. Medical proof. Vivian said, we can prove the department knew Carson was dangerous and did nothing. I said, I don't care about a bigger settlement. I want him fired. She said, we're working toward that. But Rachel, how is David doing? He was dying. March, first seizure. April, memory failing. May, store closed permanently. 23 years. Gone. David watched the movers clear out inventory, crying. I built this from nothing. Now I'm losing it.
We can't afford it. The college fund's gone for medical bills.
I'm so sorry. Stanford was your dream.
My dream is having my dad alive. That's the only dream that matters.
July, David started using a cane. Balance issues from the TBI. August, couldn't drive anymore. Seizure risk. 1 year after the beating, David was disabled. Medical bills, $200,000. Living on my teacher's salary, $52,000 a year. House remortgaged. Kids' future sacrificed. September, depositions. Defense attorney attacked David.
You can't remember how long you owned your business? I could tell you the inventory count of every item before this happened. Tell the court what you remember. Now, I can't remember what day it is. That's what your client did to me.
October. City offered $400,000. Vivian said it was insulting. We were asking $5 million. David asked, how long until trial? March 2023. 6 months. David said, March. I can make it to March. But he couldn't. November, severe seizure. Brain swelling increasing. Emergency surgery to place a shunt. Thanksgiving in the hospital. Emma holding his hand, Daddy, when can you come home? David barely conscious, soon, baby girl. December, city offered $1.2 million. Then $2.4. Vivian said, they're scared. This is a good offer. David refused. I'm going to trial. I'm going to testify. 1 month. I can last 1 month. January, David's cognitive decline accelerating. Some days didn't recognize the kids. February, city offered $2.4 million again. David refused. We're going to trial. I'm going to look Carson in the eye and tell the jury what he did. February 28th, David collapsed. Brain hemorrhage. Emergency surgery. Bennett said, his brain can't take more trauma. You need to prepare for the possibility he won't make it at all. March 3, Vivian visited the ICU. David, if something happens before trial, do you want Rachel to continue? David, barely conscious, promise me. Promise you'll make them pay. Even if I promise. Make sure Carson can't hurt anyone else. I will. March 8, 3:47 a.m., alarms. Another hemorrhage. Code blue. 4:23 a.m., David Mitchell died. 43 years old. 19 months after the beating. 12 days before trial. He never testified. He never saw Carson held accountable. He never saw justice. 12 days. That's how close he came. 12 days that might as well have been forever.
March 9th, day after David died. The grief counselor said, "Take all the time you need." But there was no time. Vivian called. "Rachel, I am sorry. But I need to ask, do you want to continue the lawsuit? The city offering $2.4 million to settle quietly. Or we go to trial in 12 days. David had made me promise. The night before he slipped into his final coma. Promise me you'll make Carson pay. I said, set the trial date. I'll be there.
March 11th. Funeral. 500 people at Community Baptist. Closed casket. I didn't want anyone's last memory to be the decline.
David's fight is not over. His family will make sure of that.
Caleb and Emma held each other. I sat stone-faced. Hadn't cried since he died. Still in shock. Officer Carson didn't attend. March 20th. Trial began. I sat at the plaintiff's table. Empty chair beside me. Where David should have been. Caleb and Emma in the gallery behind me. Carson at the defense table. Forced to attend. Vivian stood before the jury.
David Mitchell is not here today. He wanted to be. He fought 19 months to be here. But he died 12 days ago from complications of a traumatic brain injury. A brain injury sustained when Officer Carson slammed his head into a truck during a legal traffic stop. David never got to testify, but the evidence will testify for him.
Defense opened with,
This is a tragedy. But correlation is not causation. Officer Carson used reasonable force. What happened over 19 months? The surgeries, complications, those aren't his fault.
Then I took the stand.
Mrs. Mitchell, describe your husband's health before August 14.
David was completely healthy. Worked 6 days a week. Coached basketball. Last physician in June, the doctor said he had the health of a 30-year-old. And after August 14th, my voice broke for the first time since he died. I watched my husband deteriorate for 19 months. The headaches, memory loss, seizures, personality changes, surgeries. I watched the man I loved disappear piece by piece.
Did he ever recover?
No, he only got worse until March 8th when he died in my arms.
Defense cross-examined me. Tried to blame the surgeries. The complications. I cut him off. Angry. My husband was healthy. Officer Carson beat him. My husband developed a brain injury. My husband died. That's not complex. That's cause and effect. Dr. Bennett testified.
Your Honor, these scans show clear evidence of trauma. The damage is undeniable.
Proceed, counselor.
The evidence is clear.
Without that initial trauma, David Mitchell would be alive today. Defense asked if surgery caused complications. Dr. Bennett destroyed them. The surgery was necessary because of the beating. If you're asking if the beating caused everything after, yes. The origin is the beating. Dr. Vance, the neurologist, explained, like knocking over the first domino. Everything follows inevitably. Witnesses testified. Mrs. Rodriguez, I watched that officer beat that man for no reason. Carson took the stand. Cold. showed no remorse. I'm sorry for the family's loss, but I was doing my job. Vivian asked, Officer Carson, David Mitchell is dead. Do you feel any responsibility? I was doing my job. In 22 years, how many unarmed people you used force against later died? Long pause. Mr. Mitchell is the only one. That you know of. Closing arguments. Vivian, David fought to live long enough to see this day. He almost made it. Died 12 days short. But the evidence made it. Hold Officer Carson accountable. Even if these consequences come too late for David to see them. Defense, too much time. Too many variables. You can't connect dots across 19 months. The jury deliberated 2 days. David had waited 12 days too long. Would justice wait any longer?
March 29th. 2 days of deliberation.
We, the jury, find in favor of the plaintiff, Rachel Mitchell. On the claim of excessive force, liable. Municipal liability, liable. Damages, $2,400,000.
I sat stone-faced. No reaction. Caleb broke down crying. Emma hugged him. Vivian squeezed my hand. Officer Carson showed no expression. We won. Outside, I told the cameras the truth.
The jury said David was right. David was always right. But David's not here to hear it. He died 12 days before the verdict. For 19 months, he held on. Believed justice was coming. And it did come. 3 weeks too late. No amount of money brings him back. This isn't justice. This is compensation for a murder the law calls excessive force. We won. And we lost, because David lost everything, and we lost David. That's what victory looks like in these cases.
April. Settlement breakdown arrived. Verdict, $2.4 million. Attorney fees, $792,000. Court costs, $127,000. Medical liens, $340,000. Taxes, $425,000. Net to me, $716,000. I looked at Vivian. David's life insurance was $500,000. This settlement is $716,000. So his death is worth $1.2 million to us financially. He earned $450,000 a year from the store. If he'd lived to 65, that's nearly $10 million in lost income. They valued all of that at $2.4 million. After fees and bills, I get $716,000. That doesn't even cover Caleb's college. She said, I know it's not enough. It never is. I said, David thought winning meant something. He died believing justice was coming. And this is justice? This? April 15th. The department announced Officer Carson would face internal disciplinary proceedings. Internal Affairs recommended termination. The union filed a grievance. But Carson had one more move. April 30th. Carson announced retirement. After 23 years of service, I'm retiring effective immediately. By retiring before termination, he kept everything. Full pension, $65,000 a year for life. No admission of wrongdoing. Can't be fired, already retired. No criminal charges, the DA declined to prosecute. The verdict was civil, not criminal. He walked away free. I told the news cameras, David is dead. Officer Carson is retired with full pension. Explain to me how that's justice. The reporter said, but the city implemented reforms in David's name. I cut her off. Reforms don't bring back my husband. Carson should be in prison. Instead, he's collecting $65,000 a year for the rest of his life. For killing David. May. The city held a press conference announcing reforms. Body cameras required. Immediate medical care protocol. Use of force review board. De-escalation training. The David Mitchell Memorial Policy prohibits neon back restraint. They named it after my husband. I stood at that press conference and said what I really thought. These reforms are named after my husband. They'll help future victims. But they don't help David. He's the reason these exist, and he'll never benefit from them. That's the definition of too late. The city official tried to spin it. Mrs. Mitchell, your husband's legacy will save lives. I stopped him. My husband wanted to live, not be a legacy. You're congratulating yourselves for reforms you should have had 20 years ago. Before David. Before the 11 other people Carson hurt. Don't ask me to celebrate that you finally did the right thing after my husband died. $2.4 million. $716,000 after everyone took their piece. Officer Carson, retired, $65,000 a year. David, dead. This is what justice looks like when it comes too late.
June. 3 months after David died. $716,000 in the bank. Sounds like a lot until you do the math. Caleb's college at State University, $25,000 a year. Emma's therapy for PTSD from watching her father die, $400 a week. My therapy, $350 a week. David's remaining medical bills still arriving, $50,000. Funeral cost $18,000. Legal fees still owed, $23,000. 1 year of expenses, over $150,000. The settlement will last 4, maybe 5 years at this rate. Then what? Caleb graduated high school in June. Got into Stanford, David's dream for him. He came to me one night. Dad died so we could get this money. And it's not even enough to do what he wanted. Send me to Stanford. I said, your father died because a police officer beat him. Not for money. Never for money.
Caleb's voice broke. But that's all we got. Money he'll never see. For a future he'll never be part of. Emma, 14 now, sees a therapist twice a week. In one session, she said,
Everyone says we won. But we lost Dad. How is that winning?
You won the case, lost your father. Both things are true.
I'd give back the money to have him back.
July 17th. The settlement check finally arrived. I stood in the bank depositing $716,000. The bank manager smiled. That's quite a deposit, Mrs. Mitchell. Congratulations. I laughed. Hollow. Empty. Congratulations. I'm a millionaire widow at 40 years old. After the bank, I drove to the cemetery. Sat at David's grave. Held the deposit receipt. We got it, baby. $2.4 million. Well, $716,000 after everyone took their piece. The jury said you were right. The city admitted it. Carson's retired. There are reforms with your name on them. You won, David. You won everything you fought for. I put the receipt on his grave. Except you're not here to see it. And that makes it all worthless. I sat there until the sun started setting. Then I drove to the hardware store building. We still own it. Sold the business. Couldn't keep it without David. New tenant now. Coffee shop. Bright. Modern. Busy. Mitchell's Hardware sign, gone. 23 years of David's work. Erased. I sat in my car outside and finally, I broke. All the emotions I'd held through the trial. The funeral. The verdict. The settlement. The numbness cracked. I sobbed. Pastor Jerome saw my car. Came over. Knocked on the window. Rachel, I saw your car. Are you okay? I couldn't answer. Just cried. He's really gone. The trial kept me focused. But now it's over and he's really gone and nothing we won matters because David is gone. I know. Everyone keeps saying his legacy will live on. The reforms will save lives. But I don't want his legacy. I want my husband. I want the kids to have their father. I want our life back. Pastor Jerome just listened. $716,000. That's what David's life was worth after everything. That's not even 2 years of his income. We had 30 more years together planned. And all I get is $716,000 and a grave to visit. The pastor didn't try to fix it. Didn't tell me about God's plan or David's legacy or how time heals. He just said, "I'm so sorry, Rachel. I'm so sorry." We won $2.4 million. David was dead. The money was running out. His store was a coffee shop. His kids were traumatized. His wife was broken. This is what justice looks like when it comes too late.
March 20th, 2024. 1 year since David died. We stood at his grave. The headstone now has the full name inscription. David Mitchell, beloved husband, father, friend, 1979 to 2023. He fought for justice. Justice came too late. Caleb's 18 now, freshman at State University. Dad should be here, helping me move into dorms, giving me advice. He should be here. Emma, 15, high school freshman. I barely remember his voice anymore. My heart broke again. I have videos. We can watch them whenever you want. It's not the same as him being here. I know, baby, I know. I said to her, 1 year later, settlement $716,000, now give $180,000. We'd spent $136,000 in 12 months.
Still teaching. Took on extra classes to cover expenses. Dating? No. Not ready. May never be. Therapy every week. Nightmares still. Living day by day. A journalist called for a follow-up interview. Mrs. Mitchell, it's been 1 year since the verdict. How do you feel about the outcome? I didn't sugarcoat it anymore. I feel like we proved my husband was murdered by a police officer. And that officer is living comfortably in retirement while my husband is dead. That's the outcome. But the settlement, the reforms in David's name. I cut her off. The settlement is money. Money doesn't replace a life. The reforms might save someone else's husband. But they didn't save mine. So when you ask how I feel like justice is a lie we tell ourselves to make state-sanctioned murder more palatable. That's a strong statement. My husband is dead. That's a stronger reality. Do you regret fighting? Long pause. David wanted to fight. He believed in the system. Believed truth mattered. Believed justice would come. He died believing that. I won't dishonor his memory by saying he was wrong to believe. But I also won't lie and say the outcome was worth what it cost. He gave up 19 months of his life fighting. He could have spent those months with his kids. With me. Making memories. Living. Instead, he spent them in pain, declining, fighting a system that admitted he was right 12 days after he died. Was it worth it? Asked David. Oh wait, you can't. Because he's dead. That same week, I saw a social media post. Officer Carson. Retired at 49. Living in Florida. At a beach. Smiling. Posted on March 8th. David's death anniversary. Pension, $65,000 a year. For life. No criminal record. No admission of wrongdoing. Free. I called the police. Is he violating any terms? There are no terms, ma'am. He's retired. He's free. David's dead. Carson's at the beach. That's justice. And the money? The $716,000 that seemed like so much? Do the math with me. Caleb's college, 3 more years. 75,000. Emma's college, starting in 3 years. 100,000. Therapy for all 3 of us, 5 more years. 250,000. Living expenses to replace David's income, 5 years. 150,000. Total, 575,000. We have 580,000 remaining. In 5 years, it'll be gone. Then I'll be 45 years old. Still teaching for 52,000 a year. No savings. 2 kids. And a dead husband. The 2.4 million verdict? Paid for lawyers. Paid for courts. Paid for medical bills. Paid for 5 to 6 years of expenses. Didn't pay for David's life. His future earnings. His presence at Caleb's graduation. His voice that Emma's forgetting. The 30 years we should have had together. 1 year after the verdict, here's what we have. A gravestone with a bitter inscription. Reforms named after a man who can't benefit from them. An officer living free in Florida. A settlement that's evaporating. 2 traumatized kids. And me, a widow who won justice 4 months too late. This is what victory looks like.
March 2025. 2 years since David died. I still go to his grave every week. Caleb made Dean's list. Emma got into the AP program. They miss you every day, but they're okay. I'm managing. The settlement money's running out faster than I thought. Turns out raising 2 kids alone is expensive. Who knew? The city reforms they made in your name, they're working. No one's been killed by police in our city since you. So that's something. You died so others could live. Very noble, very heroic, very lonely for those of us left behind.
March 8th. 2-year anniversary. Small memorial at church. Pastor Jerome said, David's fight changed this city. Afterward, I told him the truth. Everyone talks about what David's death accomplished. The reforms. The verdict. The awareness. No one talks about what it cost. What we lost. Everyone else gets to feel good about the changes. We get to live without him. He said, his sacrifice meant something. I stopped him. Angry. He didn't sacrifice himself. He was murdered. Don't make it sound noble. He wanted to live. He died fighting for the right to live. That's not a sacrifice, it's a tragedy. A documentary filmmaker wanted a final interview.
Mrs. Mitchell, 2 years since the verdict, do you feel justice was served? Justice would be my husband alive. That's the only justice that matters. Everything else is just compensation for murder. But the settlement, the reforms, Carson's retirement. Carson's retired on a pension. My husband is dead. Where's the justice in that? The city admitted wrongdoing. The verdict vindicated David. David died before he heard that vindication. He fought 19 months to hear the city admit they were wrong. Died 12 days before trial ended. If the trial had been scheduled 2 weeks earlier, he might have lived to hear it, but it wasn't. So he died believing, hoping, but never knowing for sure that truth would win. Tell me where the justice is in that. What would you tell someone whose loved one was killed by police? I tell them the truth. Fighting might get you a settlement, might get reforms named after your loved one, might get some accountability, but it won't get them back. And if they die before the case ends, and that's more common than you think, they'll die never knowing if their fight mattered. My husband died hoping for justice. I got to see justice delivered to an empty chair. That's not winning. That's surviving with the knowledge that we were 12 days away from him seeing it. 12 days. The rest of my life, I'll think about those 12 days. Do you regret it? I regret that David had to fight. I regret the system is so broken that a man has to die fighting for the right to not be beaten. I regret justice moves so slowly that victims die before seeing it. I regret a lot of things. But not fighting? No. Because David believed truth mattered. And I refuse to let his death make me cynical enough to believe it doesn't, even though every day I'm tempted to. Was it worth it? Ask me when my kids are grown, when the settlement money's gone, when I'm old and alone and I've lived decades without him. Ask me then if $716,000 reforms and a verdict he never saw were worth losing the love of my life. Ask me then. Right now, all I know is I'd give back every penny to have 12 more days with David. 12 days so he could have heard the jury say he was right. But I don't get that choice. None of us do. The dead don't get vindication. Only the living get settlement. And somehow we're supposed to call that justice.
Later. Sunset. Cemetery. Alone at his grave. I placed flowers. Sat on the grass beside his headstone. Whispered. They ask if it was worth it. What am I supposed to say? That you died for $2.4 million that mostly went to lawyers? That you died for reforms that came too late to save you? That you died 12 days before hearing you were right? Pause. The truth is, David, nothing was worth losing you. Not the money. Not the reforms. Not the verdict. Nothing. But you fought anyway. Because you believed in justice. You believed truth mattered. You believed the system would work eventually. Crying now. You were right. The system did work. Eventually. 4 months after you died. That's not justice, baby. That's just cruelty with a verdict attached. But I'll take the money. I'll make sure the kids finish college. I'll live the life we planned, minus you. I'll survive. And maybe that's the real question. Not, was it worth it? But can I live with the answer? I don't know yet. Ask me in another 20 years. When the money's gone. When the kids are grown. When I've lived more years without you than with you. Ask me then if justice was worth the price. I stood. Kissed his headstone. Walked away. The camera stayed on his grave as the sun set.